Well, cool. Hey, everybody. We're here for another episode of the Aviation Growth Podcast. Here with me today, I have Andy Nixon, who is the president of MRO Insider, was also named one of NBAA's 40 under 40 this year. So congrats on that, Andy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's Friday. Made it through another week. We got ugly sweater party coming up tonight. So we got the house decorated, got the tree up, getting into the holiday spirits here. So all good.
That is awesome. Yeah, I was had Lindsay help me hang Christmas lights, which of course I've never had a house. We just moved in last year, so I was always a condo / apartment, on the road kind of a guy. So yeah. I'm like trying to climb the ladder that's like extended, that got this little giant ladder thing, and it's like swinging in the wind, and I'm trying to nail stuff in without killing myself. And yeah, it was so it's very festive around here now.
Nice.
And I didn't break my hip.
That's good. Yeah, I've had in the past, like, putting up the tree is like, it sounds ridiculous, but and I think a lot of people have experienced this. It's not always the most fun activity, like getting it situated in the stand, getting it straight. And I've had over the last couple of years some pretty big incidents that have happened, and my wife has not enjoyed putting up the tree. So this year she bought this like contraption. It's like this tree stand where you just stick it in, and there's like this crank, and it like pulls in all these teeth and kind of just locks on the tree.
Oh,
and
nice.
So we had this 11-foot tree, biggest tree I've ever had, and it was a one-shot deal. Like, we pulled the tree in on a hand cart and hand truck and stuck it in, looked straight, cranked it down, and it was like, wow, it worked perfectly. So
that is awesome.
Shout out to Tree Genie, I believe it's called. is a great product for Christmas trees and for all the guys and gals responsible for putting up trees. It's a good product. I definitely support it.
Worth the investment.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like $119 for like the XXL, which could do up to like 12-foot trees. And so, yeah, all good.
That's great. Nice work.
Yeah. Well, anyway, enough of the Christmas talk. Let's talk a little bit about MRO Insider.
Sure.
I'm familiar with it. I know you guys have been around for the last couple of years. Tell me a little bit about MRO Insider, what you guys are all about, the product, and kind of who's benefiting from using MRO Insider.
Sure. Yeah. So we basically just wrapped up our 4th year. We have accumulated now about 2,500 registered tail numbers here in the U.S., all corporate stuff.
Okay.
Pilatus is all the way up to, the globals and whatnot. So our main focus was to open up the market for and kind of level the playing field for any service provider doing AOG, scheduled maintenance, avionics, paint, all of that good stuff. And, the whole idea is that we charge a flat fee for them to be on it, as opposed to a lot of the old school stuff in aviation, which I'm sure you're aware of. There was, 5 brokers involved in this to get the part to the plane or, get the engine off for maintenance. And so we kind of wanted to put a flag down and say, hey, look, we're just going to do these transparent transactions, and the shops pay a flat fee every month, and that's it. And just be open about it. And the best man will win, or woman will win. And, you're kind of in charge of your own destiny through our platform. So that's kind of how we got it started. And then, of course, last July, we launched our AOG / detailing app. And so that is similar to how, we just say it's similar to Uber. Of course, it's not as fancy, but it allows you to ping out within 300 miles of your broke down aircraft or the aircraft that needs detailing and get multiple quotes back from any of the mobile service technicians that are out driving all over the country now. It's kind of become a big thing. So, that's kind of phase 2. So I think we're about I don't know, 250 provider locations now in the U.S., and we've got some over in the U.K. and some down in Mexico, and we've since hired somebody down in Brazil, so he's brought
Okay.
some locations on down there. And yeah, I mean, benefit wise, I mean, everybody does, Constant Aviation, Jet East, Stevens, some of those bigger guys are on there. They have their mobile trucks. So, of course, they swipe in 24/7 and grab jobs when something comes through. But also the smaller guys, it's been cool to see the smaller one operation, one van things grow with us. And, they're excited. They're adding people and adding additional trucks and locations. And a lot of that has, been helped along by our app because they're able to win this work and get their brand out there. So it's been pretty neat so far.
That's cool. Yeah, because in general, if you're a smaller company, maybe you haven't been around for that long, or maybe you have, but maybe you haven't done all of the advertising and to get known on like a national or international level.
Right.
That takes a lot of marketing dollars, takes a lot of work to be able to do that, and so being shown as an option, or maybe one of the few options that are available for a job in a particular area, kind of puts you on the map and gives you the opportunity to get involved in some of these jobs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it is so expensive. And when I was a director of sales and marketing for Toledo Jet, and they were a former citation service center, and so I was right smack dab in between Duncan Aviation and Constant Aviation. So it was such an uphill battle, and we had, I mean, maybe 20 grand to spend on NBAA and the trade shows and whatnot. And so stacking that up against Constant, who was doing a great job back then I mean, the brand skyrocketed, right? And so
yeah, sure.
It was hard. I mean, you're watching people on FlightAware that's like, oh man, I drove all over the place through the middle of Wisconsin to get these citation operators, and I see them, they got my quote and they're flying over my head and going to Cleveland. And so that's kind of how the whole thing came to fruition, was how do I let these people compete? Because I mean, honestly, as you know, a lot of these guys do great work, but they're mechanics at heart, and that's what they want to do. They don't want to do the accounting. They don't want to do marketing, especially. They don't want to spend that kind of money on surveys and banner ads and all this stuff like they used to have to do. And so this was just a viable solution to, help everybody out.
Sure. And so, like, I guess you have the operators who are the main users on the system as they have services that they need and arise. They're kind of putting out there, hey, we're in need of something. And then you have all of the service providers on there. What's the process for like new users to get onboarded and for new service providers to get onboarded? Is that a pretty simple thing to get rolling?
Oh yeah, it's pretty intuitive. So, for the owner operator, they just go to our app website, app.mroinsider.com, and there's a little button there that says create an account or register. I don't remember now what it says, but
sure.
They they basically, do an email address, we verify it, that gets them live, and then they go in and add their aircraft to their virtual hangar. Make and model, engine make and model, and we kind of store that on there. So once they're done with the setup, it's usually 5 to 10 minutes and they're good. And on the provider side, it's a little bit more difficult. We send them an info sheet. We need to size their logo. We need to see a company description. We get their drug and alcohol paperwork, proof of insurance, op specs, all that stuff. And so the beauty of our back end on the app is that if, for instance, yesterday a Challenger 605 giant set of inspections goes out with a due list attached, I believe it was Flight Docs actually. So it's pretty cool to see that. So away that goes, and it only goes to the shops that have the CL 605 on their op specs. So it's not just a shotgun blast to every single provider we have. So we actually go in there and kind of like list, what are you capable of for real? What do you have manuals for and tooling for and technical training for? And that's who gets it. So a little bit more setup there, but it usually takes us about, an hour or two and they're good to go.
Okay. And so you guys are actually doing a little bit of the vetting for the owners and operators when it comes to service providers. So it's
Yeah.
not like I can go and set up an account and just be like, hey, stop by my house and I'll work on your
No.
engine.
Now, in the early days when we first got started, it was like that because we were looking for anybody,
Sure.
But over time now, with the review system and other, us kind of policing some things, we've been able to flush out some of the people that are,
Yeah.
working out of a truck. But no, for the most part, we do the vetting, and a lot of the 135 operators, especially like the EJMs and Flex Jets and Wheels Up, they've been so helpful with. Hey, can you tweak this a little bit, and can you have it so this paperwork is on there so that we don't have to track them down for the approval and all this stuff. So just between all of that and the customer feedback and paying attention to that stuff, I think that we've got a pretty decent vetting process initially.
Cool. And so like going back to the early days of this, one of the things I always looked at it and said, it's a tough it's an uphill battle to be able to create like kind of a marketplace where you have both users and service providers, because in order to provide value for kind of like both parties, you need kind of this initial critical mass. And so tell me about the early days in creating this product and like starting to get both operators and service providers up and running. What was that like?
Well, stressful.
Yeah.
That was stressful, a lot of sleepless nights, but it was, first and foremost, we were, and we still are, we're shoestringing or bootstrapping the whole thing. So we never went out and raised any private equity or anything to get it going. So we knew it was going to be a slower grind to get to that point, but that if we continued to be financially responsible and borrow what we had to borrow, that we could, that we eventually we would get there. And so it literally probably took us 3 years to start getting the flywheel actually turning. But initially it was so without having a ton of marketing dollars to do it, like you said, it was you go out and get these providers, and I think the secret for us for success so far has just been being honest and say, hey, look, we can't solve every problem for you, but if you're AOG and like, there's no providers, we don't have a magic wand, but we're going to watch and see. And if you have any trouble spots, again, going back to these operators, send them our way. And so sure enough, they did. They'd send us a spreadsheet and say, these are probably our biggest headache areas that we don't have somebody on standby for us. And so we started hitting those areas. Providers got on. Okay, well, how many users do you have? Well, okay, now we're running around meeting with the fleet operators. And so that was the number one mission. Let's get as many fleet operators on as we can. And so that's how 70%, probably now 60, 70% are all Part 135 operators that are flying all over the place every day. And so, nobody knew who we were. They thought we were a magazine, of course. And so we had to eventually could get cheeky and have fun with that. But Jesus, the first,
so
3 years.
Why do people, because you always say, MRO Insider, not a magazine. Tell me, what is that about?
It was kind of interesting because probably 2 years ago, we would be calling on people and they would think that we were, MRO Insider. So apparently back in the 80s, back when I was born, there was a magazine or a publication called MRO Insider. Okay. And then, so it was neat because now if Perry wants to get on a plane at the static display, she just ran into this. Well, the people there, they don't know any better. So she says, yeah, I'm with MRO Insider. And she's got this big camera. They're like, oh yeah, come on in. And so we can, it works good because we get our foot in the door and they think that, we've had providers think that we're going to write a story about them. It's like, no, dude, this is what it is. And, okay. But yeah, we know we have to rebrand at some point. We just don't know when we're going to do it because now we're getting into the, with the FBO stuff next year and doing a big push on that. MRO just doesn't matter or doesn't exist anymore for us as being the sole thing. So it's like, that's why I offered, to sell it to you. Apparently it would have a good subscription base if there was actually a publication called that. But, Yeah, it's been rough. So we came up with the whole hashtag. Perry's had fun with it. Now people joke around about it, like you see on your LinkedIn posts. Yeah, it's so now that's kind of the tables have turned, and that's kind of what we've done with it to make it a little bit better. But yeah, the end is near for that name, I think.
It's always tough with the naming because like you don't want to call, typically calling a company something that's like totally abstract makes it difficult to connect with, users, and you want it to kind of be related to, the product and service that you're selling.
Right.
But then as the company starts growing and starts becoming something else, then you're like, man, we're stuck with this name. And you guys actually, like, the name is now really well known, but as you want to start doing different things, people are like, well, it's MRO Insider, not FBO Insider. Right. And like run into the next obstacle of nonsense to deal with.
Well, then you're like, some people think, oh man, you should have an FBO Insider. It's like, geez, okay, so now we get into that. Now we're starting at ground zero with FBOs. Now everybody thinks that we're a publication that talks about FBOs. So here we go again. But you're right. Like the guy that's down in Brazil that I've become associated with a little bit, he started this charter online booking thing called Flapper. And that was the name. I pitched against him at NBAA, and it's like Flapper. And lo and behold, he's getting traction. So I'm sitting there going, man, all the time and energy I put into this completely swung and missed. Didn't realize there was a magazine. Called this back in the day. Okay, we're stupid. And here come these other people that have like the weirdest, Flapper, and like Uber is a great, German. Okay, I get it. But it's just, like you said, like, do you do something that's, every time I come up with a name and send it to Perry, like Av something, she sends me back the puke emoji because everybody does that,
It's really tough. You have everything is called Aviation this, Jet that, Av this. And so, branding is tough in this market. And there's like, 15 different international jets or 15 different aviation this or that. So it can be tough. But like as you guys were like creating this platform, and I know I think you've done almost like a complete overhaul of the app and the website. I know that you said you had worked with, certain players. What was that process like? Because I know that, in building a new platform and you're starting off small, you have kind of like this core idea that you're trying to work with. But once you get out there in the market, you realize, okay, there's things that we didn't think about. Maybe we set this up wrong. Maybe this isn't really what they're looking for. But you also get a lot of different pieces of feedback that could kind of like send you down a bad path. So what has that been like for you? Because I'm sure you've talked to 1,000 people that said, this is what this really needs to do. And so what has that been like?
Well, first and foremost, I can tell you if I had $1 for every time somebody said I had this idea once,
sure,
I wouldn't have to be running the company. So second of all, it was, for us, we have a really, really good mentor in my cousin. And so I, in the beginning, didn't believe anything he said. He has built a company that does well over 100 million in revenue. And I just say, whatever. This guy, he doesn't know aviation. I know everybody. It's going to be easy to scale this bad boy up. It's the only thing out there, minus the stupid name that we have. But so I really leaned on him and Lindsay and I both did. We would go up into the woods and like whiteboard with him and stuff. And it was always just slow and steady. You can't, if you think of these ideas or these people tell you, write it in a notebook and then put it aside and don't worry about it. You need to be focused on, on the AOG and the maintenance, and that's it right now. And so in the beginning, I didn't believe it. And, I always had resistance, like, oh, we have to do this. We have to pivot and go this way. And he just wouldn't let us. We just wanted to listen to what he said, And so, he would always have the disclaimer, you're the one that has to get up in the morning and look in the mirror because you make the decisions. But if it was me, I'd probably look at it this way, and these are your options. And so, we got to the point of, we got carried away a couple of times, got reeled back into where we needed to go, developed things we didn't need, of course,
Sure.
for some people, because we're excited, and finally settled into the groove of where we were at, which primarily is the AOG and the scheduled stuff. And so along with that came, okay, how do we do this map feature? How do we do this location tracking? How do we tie all this in with what we want to do? And so it had come to the point where our back end on our site, with the tables, the databases, everything, it was so hodgepodge together to like patch this and make this work and override this. And it came to the point where we said, look, it's actually going to be cheaper now to just revamp this on the proper platform that we should have started with, live and learn.
Sure.
And then from there, we can do this native app. We can do all this other stuff. And so that was, we took our time. It took us about 6 months to come up with how we were going to make this new platform start out and look, and the features, and map it all out. And then sure enough, it's been smoother. And as we continue to kind of hone in on everything, it's just a million times easier to edit things and help people with their passwords and all the things that you never really thought of, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I think you guys made a good decision in looking at that, because a lot of companies, they've said, we made that investment into the product, and we got to keep running with it, and it really can come back to bite you in the ass down the road, kind of building and trying to scale on something that's really not built for that. Right.
Yeah. So it can definitely, you gotta, like Stephen King says when he's writing books, sometimes you have to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
And that is like it is terrible and you feel bad, but it just has to be done sometimes.
Yeah. No, and I think the piece about, really trying to stay focused, and that's a really difficult thing. I found myself in that place plenty of times where, you go out, you talk with, usually they're bigger customers, and they're saying, hey, you have to be doing this, or, this is the way to do it. And then you start saying, okay, well, how are we gonna keep going if we don't build this? And you realize, like, well, there's plenty of other people that you can sell this to. And with the product that you have right now, if you feel like you have a product that provides value, and works for customers, there's typically plenty of people that will buy the product as is. And so focusing on who you can sell to today, I think, is a really important piece for entrepreneurs and salespeople, and not getting caught up in like, the big future, like, here's the whole ecosystem that needs to all work together. And of course, you want that vision. You want to be able to get there one day, and you should recognize, good feedback, where this could potentially take you in the future, but don't get stuck by, just getting overwhelmed by all of this feedback. I think that's really key.
Yeah, it is. And it's, I remember probably the most, well, I still remember it. It was 3 years ago, and my cousin, I was talking to him on the phone about something. He goes, look, I can tell you that if you were in Silicon Valley right now, they would be dialing 1-800 find a new CEO, because you are not like focusing like a laser. And that stuck with me forever. And so that's what I've done. And and this with software, they'll actually will get stuck on their old antiquated, like, think of Corridor. If you came out with a whole new awesome system, if there was some weird drop down from 1980 in HTML, they would want the new system to do that, because in their brain, they think they need that because they've always had it.
Sure.
And so being able to flush that out of people too is, well, no, it doesn't do that, but it does this. Oh, right. Okay. That's hard.
Well, it's not always. It's not just a change in the technology. There's a lot of changes that happen in the day-to-day processes as well, right? And so, you're not out there just, showing off this software and saying this is everything it could do. They're going to compare that to how they've been doing things for the last 20 or 30 years. And you, as part of being like a successful salesperson and like positioning your company, you really need to be able to say, okay, well, that's how you do it today. This is how this works, and like really bridging the gap and showing them that, you have steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I know that you're used to doing steps 2 and 3, but we could jump right from 1 to 4 by utilizing this platform. And so it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I've seen that plenty of times. I think that's one of the big obstacles to get over in sales, especially in aviation, because a lot of the processes, a lot of the technology is a bit outdated. Sure. And luckily, I think in the last few years, we're really starting to see some players enter the market with, better options, with more modern solutions. What you guys are doing is definitely taking things to the next level, for, streamlining some of these processes, getting people connected. And so, I think that as time goes on, I believe it's going to be easier and easier to, get new solutions into, flight departments, MROs, FBOs, whatever it may be.
For sure. For sure. I agree. Yeah, it's interesting, I mean, you get pushback on stuff if it's new. Yeah. And, on our FBO side, it's, as we continue to, or, get ready to start scaling that up, it's been, for the operators or for the FBOs, it's, well, I already go in and, I already edit my fuel price every Wednesday already in this system. I have to do like 5 systems, and I don't want to, well, yeah, I know, but you don't have to, because our FBO stuff is quoted. It's live. It's whatever the market, right. Whatever you want to quote. And so it's just, oh my God. Well, okay. Well, how does that work? And what, so it's training people, because like you said, they've always done it that way. Oh, it's Wednesday morning. I got to go do 4 flight and all these other things now for the contract fuel. But really, I mean, what we found is the providers, they don't really care. They still call around to 5 or 10 FBOs in the area they're going to find out who's hungry and who wants to pump gas today, kind of a deal.
Right. Sure. Sure. So as you guys look to kind of continue to grow from here, I know that, you guys have a pretty active presence on social media and on LinkedIn. Tell me about that approach, because I think you guys are pretty unique in some of the things that you do, in promoting, the company, your customers, and the products that you're providing.
Yeah, I appreciate you noticing all that stuff. So couldn't do it without Perry. Perry's our director of marketing, and she has done a phenomenal job. Recently elected to the board of directors for the NorCal Business Aircraft Association, and donates her time after hours for social media things. And so again, and she can tell you how annoying it is. We just bootstrap the whole thing. So everything, and I tell everybody this, like, we get so many compliments from what she does, and I see you guys everywhere, and yeah. That's all organic, and they can't believe it. Like, there's no promotion, sponsored stuff, nothing like that. You don't see us in a 1-page ad in any of the magazines. That we just can't afford to do that right now. So, LinkedIn for sure, 100% is our best friend. I mean, we have so many connections and such great engagement on there, and I think that for us, we pride ourselves on not being as stuffy, I guess you would say, as a lot of business aviation. So we like to have fun. We work hard, play hard. I played a little too hard. That's why I'm sober now. But on social media for us, it's just showing that we're real people. And kind of what we do, not just with MRO Insider and the fun stuff and the team effort that we do, but also, what we do in our spare time and, who we're helping or what we're interested in to just connect with people on a more personal level, as opposed to just being this machine that just jams facts and jams sales stuff down their throat. That just doesn't work anymore with people. They're just too educated.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a different. I talk to a lot of my customers and connections about this in particular. Is that times are changing. The buying process is a lot different than it was 5 or 10 years ago, and so the idea of saying like, hey, we're going to take our whole marketing budget and put it on like a 2-page spread in a big magazine, which, I mean, you're talking about $10,000, $20,000 in some cases for one ad that sends basically one message about your product, right? And so there's a time and place for kind of like going big and spending money and kind of utilizing some of these channels out there that are established. But it's a little bit longer of a game in what you guys have done, right? It's not like you can go from 0 followers to, how many followers do you guys have? I think you hit a milestone.
Yeah, about 5,100.
Yeah. So 5,000, let's say 5,000 followers, it's not something that you can do overnight, right? So it's a longer game. It takes effort and it takes commitment and continuously creating content that, tells a story about your company, tells a story about your products. And also, you had mentioned is like tells a story about you guys personally, because, behind the logo, behind the software, there's real people that are, behind this company and are working to create something that's really cool. And so, there's a lot of effort that goes into it. And it's something that, companies, especially in aviation, can't ignore any longer. Like the idea of saying, hey, well, we'll post once every 2 months, or, we'll have our kind of one video that we did a couple of years ago, and we're just going to keep posting that. These are strategies that are pretty outdated. And for companies that really want to take their brand to the next level, want to stay competitive, want to really drive the number of leads and ultimately drive their revenue, it's something that they have to get on board with, because their competitors are going to, either they're doing it right now or they're going to get there eventually. So
right, yeah, it's hard to break the the younger marketing people.
Sure.
They get it right away, what we're doing, and oh wait, my logo can be on a map that people log into and view all the trucks and the buildings. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? But then the old school is, we need to advertise in Reader's Digest. And I really need that guy or girl when they're going to the bathroom to be flipping through and see my ad for 10 grand. And that's what we explain to them. All they got to do is flip that page and that's it. Your 10, 12, 15 grand gone. And so it's, and it comes down to, data and honing in, like you said, too, on what works and what doesn't. We know our best return is at the maintenance conference. So we are buying a big booth there. We just know that is where we need to put it. And so I would say because we're creative, we're actually hiring, so you're allowed to bring in anything you want that you can carry. You're not allowed to use a hand cart, right? And so we're actually hiring a Sherpa this year, and we're just going to pile everything up and just have them walk in and set up our booth. But we're doing like a fake campfire and all this stuff, and so it's just stuff we're going to Walmart to buy and go that route. And so honestly, it'll be less probably to move us out there to Fort Worth to get the booth, to get it all set up, than it would be to do a 1-page ad for 1 month, So
sure.
Yeah, it's there's definitely some new options out there and changes are coming.
Yeah, for sure. So how do you, looking forward into the future, how are you guys looking at this business? What's maybe new coming down the road for 2022? Are you just focusing on the FBO stuff? Any new products coming that people should know about?
Yeah, so I mean, after the dial a new CEO comment, we have decided to really continue focusing on the AOG and the scheduled stuff, and so kind of going down that path, we will be fully have global appearance partners integrated with us probably by the end of next week. We'll have it all tested and done. And so that's a big step for us because we were able to recognize that, hey, this company, Jared there, the CEO, met with us over in Cleveland. They know what they're doing on the detailing side. They know the data. They know what people are spending. They have that ability. And so for us to just spin that off right away and say, hey, look, it's better for our customers when they're requesting detailing if they have these guys managing the project for them from start to finish, because we, quite frankly, we need to focus on AOG and scheduled maintenance. And so that's one integration. It'll be we'll call it a January 1st opening. But yeah, we're on top of that, we're bringing on 2 employees, which we're excited about. That's a big step for us as well. And they will both be basically focusing on the FBO side. That's the world they lived in. And so trying to get that going. And, our goal is to add, we'd like to get 300 FBOs in the US added on there. And, it should be neat. It'll be a new process. So here we go again, trying to train people, but we don't need one preferred FBO at each location. There could be 4 FBOs. We want all 4 of them on at that airport and anyone within 100 miles of that airport so that they can quote this work and hangar rental and fuel and all this other stuff. And, so that'll be pretty exciting. So we'll be spending some time. We're going to be attending schedulers and dispatchers for the first time. So that'll be pretty interesting.
Cool. Are you guys going to have a booth there or just walking?
No, we're going to walk it because our intel from the guy that we're hiring, one of them it's just a line of FBOs. And so we could just go from one table to the next.
Yep.
It's not going to cost them anything to be on. We're just going to end up flat fee charging them per aircraft that we send there for fuel and whatnot. So it's kind of a low risk for the FBO. They just have to fill out some paperwork, and then of course that'll be integrated with our moving map. So if you're going somewhere from if you're in Europe and you're coming to the US or wherever it may be, you'll be able to see our locations for FBOs and ping directly to the FBOs if you'd like, and kind of figure out your game plan from there. So yeah, that's really about it. Just trying to stick with what we know, adding more tail numbers, of course, and having fun along the way.
Sweet. It's cool to see the progression and the new things that are coming down the road. Hear a lot of good things. I'm not an MRO Insider user, but I know a lot of people that are and have appreciated what you guys are doing and working with you and the team. A lot of good feedback there. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah. So, but yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on, Andy. It's good to connect.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on a second time because we did this once before and we had some technical difficulties. So, yeah, thanks for doing it again. And yeah, we'll probably see you at Schedulers and Dispatchers. I'll be out there. No booth at this time around, but yeah, I'll also be just walking the show, and so yeah, we'll see you there. Where if people are looking for you, where can they find you?
Well, on the snowmobile trail here in about a month, it's probably the best place to find me. But no, probably LinkedIn. Definitely look me up on there. And then if you visit our website, you can ping out to us. We're extremely responsive. So always willing to talk and chat and help out where we can.
Yeah. So if you're an operator or if you are a service provider, make sure you reach out to MRO Insider, get involved. And yeah, thanks again, Andy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.